Welcome, dear friends, to this Tuesday night program, which is being shared with the Dhammadharini Monastery, the Wat Buddhanusorn, and the people who are live there at that beautiful temple, as well as some of our community coming in from the Aranya Bodhi Hermitage, and all of those who are joining us online. This program is going to be streamed onto our Facebook and YouTube channels. So if you want to listen to the talk a second time, you can always find it on Facebook. Let's come to the regular evening chanting. Please direct your awareness to the Buddha Rupa that you have in your home, or the one that you can see on your screen, and bow 3 times. Chanting with me. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Subhatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Iti piso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho Vingya Charana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Anumtaro Purisadammasarati Sabta Deva Manusanam Buddha Bhagavati Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sandikiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Pachatam Veditammo Vinyuhiti Subhatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Urupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Nyayapatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samikkhipatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Yadidam Chaptari Purisa Yugani Yatra Purisa Pungala Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahuneo, Pahuneo, Dakyoneo, Anjali Karaneo, Anantaram Punya Ketan Lokasati. The precepts and refuges. Mayang aye visung visung rakanataya tisaranena saha panchasilani yatama dutiyampi mayang aye visung visung rakanataya tisaranena saha panchasilani yatama tatiyampi mayang aye visum visum rakanataya tisaranena saha panchasilani yakchama. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranam gacchami, Dhammang saranam gacchami, Sanghang saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Paratipata veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Kame sumikchakara veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Sura meraya majjapamaratthana veramani sikkapadang samadhiyami. Sabapapasa akaranam kusala supasampada sakchitta pariyodapanam etang buddhana sasanam ananta guna sampanna janeti janaka ubho Mayham mata pitunang va padevandami sadaram etena sakchavajena sarasoti bhavantu me pakcharakchariya honti Gunutteranusasaka Pamyavum dikarete te Dinnovade namamiham Etena sakchavajena Hotu me jayamangalam Sabe sat Sukita Hontu, Avera Hontu, Ambya Panja Hontu, Anika Hontu, Sukiyatanang Pariharantu. We can see that Venerable Lungpur Mahaprasad has joined us this evening. So
You can say anything.
No, it's okay. Sorry, I just sit here.
good, Bhante.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and for joining us.
This evening, I'm inviting our colleague and friend Ayya Santacitta to give a Dhamma talk. She was ordained for a long time as a Sila nun in the Ajahn Chah tradition in England, is one of the founders of the Aloka Vihara, and has recently launched a new endeavor called the Earth Room. And I hope that she will be sharing with us about this new project. So now I'm going to give the spotlight to Ayya Santacitta.
Thank you so much, Sobana, for inviting me, and also good evening, Ajahn Mahaprasad. Thank you for coming, and and hello to everybody here. Some of you I do know, the sisters from Aranya Bodhi, and also, Barbara I do know. Ananea is coming also. So I'm at the moment, I'm in Larkspur, staying at the home of our board president, and I'm just in the middle of moving to San Rafael, to the Earth Room, and from the beginning of next month onwards, I'm gonna then live there, and one of our stewards is gonna stay with me there. It's going to be, maybe some of you know her, Heather Marie, who stayed with us several times also at Aloka Vihara. And
Ayya, can you speak a little louder? It's a little bit hard to hear you here from the Wat. Okay, if you can mic a little bit closer to you. Thank you.
Is that now better?
Yes.
A little bit. If you can move the mic closer to you, it is probably louder.
Let me go and just do it with the headphones with an inbuilt microphone, because I can't have the computer closer than what I'm doing right now. But let me try that, if that is better.
We'll sit for a moment until the technology is fixed.
Yeah. Let's check that. Is it now better? Is that better?
Okay, it's we move closer to the speaker, so it's okay now. Thank you, Ayya.
Okay, good. Let's do it, because I didn't have those problems in the past, so I think you might just need to move closer. Yeah. Okay, good.
I think the sound was better before the headphones.
Okay, good. No headphones. Better, Ayya?
It's about the same or
That's
better.
better, thank you.
Okay, let's do it like, I prefer without headphones actually myself. Thank you. Yeah, and I enjoy seeing Ajahn Mahaprasad with the beautiful mural behind him, because I know there is the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bhikkhunis also on the mural, which I hope everybody of you have seen that. This is quite special. When he showed that to me the first time, I was really very happy about that. Such a wonderful shrine there. That's a beautiful temple. So, yeah, I would like today start with a guided meditation on the elements, because I think, the meditation on the elements is a very important meditation at this time right now, where more and more of us, waking up to the climate crisis, and where it becomes, more and more clear that we don't really know who we are. Because if we really would know who we are, that we are actually, these bodies are made of the elements. If we would really know that, we would relate differently to the planet, because we would know that the planet is us and we are the planet. And that's why I have called today's teaching, making peace with the earth is making peace with ourselves, because we and the earth, we are not separate. And this meditation in particular, it's a very ancient meditation, comes from Iron Age India to us. Was done, is from the early Buddhist teaching, first establishment of mindfulness. So it's a very ancient teaching, but it's so important, especially right now, for us to apply this. Because if we do this regularly, it changes the way we understand ourselves, who we are. Because what we're gonna experience very directly is that we never cut the umbilical cord, towards the planet. We are constantly in exchange through eating, drinking, breathing, going to the bathroom, sweating. So many, ways we are constantly in exchange with the whole planet, and through that actually with the whole universe. And that's just like awesome, I think, to really recollect that regularly. And then somehow, slowly but surely, that changes the understanding of who we are, and we develop a different relationship to our bodies and to the planet. And that's exactly what is called for now, for the whole of humanity, really. If we want to stay around, that's what we need to, this learning curve we need to take. So I can speak, a little bit more about it later, but let's just jump right in and have an experience, a direct experience of that truth. So, find a posture which you can sustain for about 40 minutes. And it doesn't matter if you're sitting on the chair or if you're sitting on the ground, on the cushion. What is important is that you have a straight back. And just, taking a deep breath and arriving here, after a day of work maybe, or whatever has happened today in your life. Like checking in, how are your stress levels? How do you feel right now? And then you're also bringing to mind, remembering, why are you practicing? Why did you come today? What's your motivation? What's your aspiration? Why are you doing this? And this meditation on the elements, belongs to the first establishment of mindfulness, to the first Satipatthana, which is about body. And it can alter the sense of who we understand ourselves to be, who we are and how we are. It gives us a different way of looking at having a body or being a body. So we're gonna do body scans now. And I'm just gonna give a verbal guidance, and you just allow your mind to just respond. We don't need to prove anything or need to do anything in particular, feel anything in particular, but just consciously experiencing the elements: earth element, water element, fire element, and wind element. And we are starting with the coarsest of the elements, which is the earth element. And the earth element is experienced as hardness or structure, gravity, softness, hardness and soft as opposed to softness. Press your teeth together, that's the direct experience of hardness or structure. So we can particularly feel that in the bones, and the teeth are the tips of the bones, and also all the other bones. We can experience hardness and structure, the skeleton. And then, sweeping down over the skull to the neck, hardness, earth element. And then we're coming to one shoulder, hardness, earth element. And then the upper arm, hardness, earth element. Lower arm, hardness, earth element. And hand, hardness, earth element. And then we come to the other shoulder, hardness, earth element. Upper arm, hardness, earth element. Lower arm, hardness, earth element. Hand, hardness, earth element. Then the torso with the spine and the rib cage, hardness, earth element. The pelvis, hips, hardness, earth element. And then one upper leg, hardness, earth element. Lower leg, hardness, earth element. Foot, hardness, earth element. And then the other upper leg, hardness, earth element. Lower leg, hardness, earth element. and foot hardness, earth element. This whole body is permeated by earth element. Earth element internally and earth element externally are exactly the same earth element, the mountains and the rocks. Earth element is empty, empty of a self. And if we don't ingest earth elements through food, after 1 or 2 months, this body is going to shut down and fall apart. So there's a constant exchange happening. There's no real internal and external. Earth element is just earth element. And for earth element to be holding us in the way it does, there needs to also be some kind of cohesion. And that brings us to the next element, the water element, which stands for cohesion, wetness, fluidity, liquidity. And we can in particular be aware of it in the flesh, which is permeated by lots of different liquids. The softness of the flesh. And we can also start with scanning now for that water element. And we're just starting with the feet, both feet, being aware of water element, which permeates the flesh. And then the lower legs, water element. Upper legs, water element. Pelvis, hip area, water element. The torso with all of the organs in there, water element. The hands, water element. The lower arms, water element. The upper arms, water element. Shoulders, water element. Neck, water element. Then the head, water element. The whole body is permeated by water element. Over 70% of the body is water element. Water element internally and water element externally, the lakes and rivers, the oceans and the rain. It's exactly the same water element. Water element is empty, empty of a self. And if we don't ingest water element through beverages and water, after about 3-4 days, the body is going to shut down. There's a constant exchange happening through drinking and sweating, going to the bathroom, crying, so many different ways. And in order, for this body to live, the water element has to have a certain temperature. If it's too cold, it freezes and it gets solid. And if it's too hot, it evaporates. So that brings us to the next element, the fire element, which stands for heat and cold, for temperature. And we can experience the temperature on the surface of the skin, where the surface of the body meets the air around us, the space. So we can sweep down from the top of the head, experiencing fire element on the skin. Maybe in the mouth you can feel the temperature. Fire element. Neck, fire element. The shoulders, fire element. Both upper arms, fire element. Lower arms, fire element. The hands, fire element. Then the torso, fire element. If you have maybe eaten something, you can feel, the digestion produces a lot of fire element too. And then coming to the hip area, the pelvis, fire element. And the upper legs, fire element. The lower legs, a fire element. And the feet, fire element. Fire element internally and fire element externally, as the sun and the fossil fuels we can use, to heat our house. It's all exactly the same fire element. It all comes from the sun. This whole body is permeated by fire element. Fire element is empty of a self. And this body can only live in a certain temperature range. In order for continuously living, this body needs between 4 and 38 degrees centigrade. I'm not quite sure what that is actually in Fahrenheit for America. I have it written down somewhere. I can't find it right now. It's between 39 and 95 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's too colder than that or hotter than that, body can be there only for a very short time. And warmth and heat are actually motion. And that brings us to the wind element, which stands for movement, mobility, vibration, expansion, contraction, pressure. That's how we can experience the wind element, in particular in the breathing process. When the body is expanding, the chest expanding and then contracting, that's how we can experience wind element. But also in the, how the blood pumps through the body, that's also movement. So being aware of the breath, how it comes into the body and leaves the body. It's a direct experience also of wind element. So all of this whole, meditation practice is, it's not telling us, what wind element is or earth element is, but it gives us a direct experience. It's not descriptive, but it's prescriptive. So that we know, beyond words, we know directly what it is. Breathing in. Really directly experiencing movement, and then with the breathing out, relaxing into the space. And maybe also, considering that this air which we are breathing in is coming from all of the vegetation, from the trees. They are producing oxygen, and they are, taking in the CO2 which we are breathing out. So there's this constant cooperation going on between us and the plant life on this planet. And then with the out breath, relaxing into the space, brings us to the next element, space element, in which our body has cavities, such as the mouth or the ears, nose, the womb for the women. It's all, also manifestation of space element. And all around, limitless space, which doesn't end at the walls of this room where we are sitting in, but it's limitless, expanding. listening into the silence, into the space. Allowing the mind to open. So by doing this meditation, it shifts our identity, from personal identity to a much vaster. The whole kind of concept of identity just starts to dissolve. And we can, have a direct experience that we are part of nature. We are not separate entities. Walking around on the planet like on a stage, it's very different than that. It's just one way of looking, but it's not who we really are. We are much vaster than that. And we never cut the umbilical cord. As long as, we are having a human body, we are dependently arisen on this planet, on the whole universe, really. And it's not about that we don't exist, we do exist, but we exist differently than what we assume. And this insight is like very powerful insight. On a material level, it shows us our dependence on the earth. And in terms of our understanding of who we are, it shows us that we don't really exist in the way we think we exist. But we are dependently arisen. And we don't exist from our own side. And the Buddha, has been on record for saying, I do not teach that things exist or do not exist. I teach dependent origination. And this meditation brings that very much to the forefront. It's not like a philosophical investigation, but more like a direct experience. And just allowing that to work on us, to kind of shift the ways we see ourselves. The earth element, water element, fire element, wind element, space element. And the silence which permeates that limitless space. And the breathing process, the constant movement and change. So yeah, attuning to the way things really are, how we exist, and what we are. Has been never as important as it is now. As we are starting, to wake up to how really serious our situation is. And we need to slow down in order to really be able to recognize and really relate to that truth. Needing to slow down in order to be able to speed up with, responding in the way we feel called to respond. But first we need to, tune the instrument we've got. So that we can, truly relate to our bodies for what they are. And they can bring up different, reactions in the mind and in the heart, like sense of sadness or a sense of awe or an enrichment or sense of, not feeling confused. Whatever it is, just allowing it to be there and acknowledging it. So this body, this consists of the elements, and the whole biosphere of this planet has limits. And that's something we really need to wake up to at this time. It's a closed system, there's not much entering or leaving the system. There's sometimes a meteor maybe coming in or a spaceship going out, but otherwise it's a closed system and we have to make do with what's available. We can't have more than what is available. And we are now entering, an age where we need to be taking that really very serious and do what we can to attune, to come into coherence with that reality. And reality speaks to us all the time, through the climate crisis, giving us lots of knocks, on the head, and lots of information is coming to us, and we need to get ourselves ready to really relate to that information. And I think, this very ancient practice of the elements meditation is a very powerful practice for these times. Then we are coming, slowly to the end of this meditation today. feeling the gravity, earth element gets pulled to earth element. So we know exactly, where we are coming from. These bodies, they need to relate to the bigger picture. We can't escape it. As long as, we have still work to do in terms of greed, hatred, and delusion, as long as that's still here and we have a human body, we need to come to terms with those limitations. That's part of the path to relate to that in a skillful way. Until that drops away, we can't get around it. And that's part of the path to relate skillfully to the limitations of what it is, to be born as a human being and be a participant and a guest on this planet. Not more than that. So, just gonna ring the bell now. We can slowly open our eyes and come into the space more fully again. So, before I'm going to go any further or anything, I just was wondering if there's anyone here in the group who would like to, say something or share, with us how that was, that meditation. Maybe you've done it for the first time. Maybe you've done it already if you have known about it. Is there any comments or any sharings there or questions even?
Barbara has her hands in Anjali, Barbara Mahan.
Okay, Barbara. Thank you. Barbara, do you want to say something?
Taking me a minute to unmute.
Okay, yes.
I'm okay now.
Yeah.
I've done this meditation with you, Ayya Santacitta, and it's always on one level grounding, on another level challenging. And I always feel, this time particularly, I felt like I was reaching for a more spacious experience, but that I didn't get there. And I kept hearing your voice speaking, and I was hearing it, but I kept wanting to receive it conceptually, and that wasn't possible. So then it was, okay, just be with this. But now I don't have a conclusion, actually. That's as far as I could go.
Yeah, but there is, the conclusion would be full awakening, and it hasn't happened tonight. So that's the conclusion.
Would you say it again? The conclusion is?
I think the conclusion is, like full awakening or like enlightenment, letting go of all.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Of all limitations in the mind, all of those filters, those cognitive and emotional filters, which keep us kind of imprisoned in seeing things differently than what they truly are. So, it's more like trusting, that this body and this mind, that there is a certain intelligence, which comes with having this life, that if you are consistently honing the instrument in the right way, that it will, the process, that the Dhamma will lead you onwards. You don't have to come to a conclusion,
Yeah.
But it's more like an intuition. For me, it's more like an intuitive knowing, that this is bringing me into a more realistic relationship with what it is, to be alive.
Yeah, and I need teachers to help me come to that edge, even if it's increasingly unknown in some ways.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we all need teachers, and and I always say, when people like, joining in a practice like this, if there's some real benefit, then when you go, you go with less. It's not that you are learning here something extra to put into your luggage, to have more to carry, but it's more like if there's a real benefit, then you're putting something down,
Yes. I love that. I go with less.
Have less stuff, less assumptions of less ideas, less kind of projections, and more like, through this direct experience of, how we are completely interconnected with the planet, or Thich Nhat Hanh calls it interbeing.
Interbeing,
yeah. So that's not something, you can really think about, but it's more like there is less in the way, It's like a washing away of assumptions, through this reality check of the meditation. That's how I see it, and then there is less tightness and less kind of experience of separation, at least for moments,
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the conclusion, It's not an intellectual conclusion, because that really doesn't help much, but it's more like a relaxation of the whole system, because there's not so much fear and not so much kind of need for control, I'd say, And, wanting to kind of come to a conclusion is like another way of wanting to control everything, So then you write it down, and then you kick it off and all of that stuff. And that has some, that has definitely some function in order to, get some information and so on, because we need to have some instructions and so on. Otherwise, we don't know how to do it. But the raft, which helps us to cross over. Once, it has done its job, you don't need to carry it.
Yes.
And I think, that need to having a conclusion and so on, that can also be just like a way of, trying to nail things down and feeling, where does that come from? And then that's also something where we can experience the maybe a certain fear, a certain kind of a neediness, and then respecting that and being okay with that, you know, but not necessarily being bossed around by that need, you know. And then, you know, if we can relax that need, then that also, you know, slowly, you know, makes our life, has an influence also on how we live, you know. Yeah. But, you know, thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Well, my gladness, I'm always grateful when someone like you goes much deeper than what I had to say. And it's really helpful. But I mean, it's just, you know, how is that one garners a deeper level of truth than even what I think I'm speaking? And maybe it's just, I can grow in that, but I'm always grateful when someone hears deeper than I am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for, you know, speaking up. It's always great if people, you know, if there's some relationship, some response, because that's great. It's much easier than to kind of say something, or rather than speaking into kind of empty space, you know. So thank you, Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Wait,
is it you, Quinn?
Sorry?
Quinn, yes?
Yes, Quinn.
Please, Quinn, please make a comment, Quinn.
So I've been a meditator for over 20 years, and I'm very familiar with body contemplation, like body parts. And I did a lot of skeleton meditation. I really felt that was grounding, but I wasn't so well versed in the 4-element meditation as you led us. The skeleton, of course, is something that I told you I'm quite adept at. But I found it very, very grounding and you know, enlightening how you led the meditation.
Thank you.
Just to say one thing, the skeleton meditation that I did for years developed into jhana by focusing on the whiteness of the bones. But I never really thought of it as doing earth element meditation. So that's kind of different.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could explain how to use it in a more deeper way.
You know, I think through you know, I don't have much experience with jhana meditation myself, but it's a, you know, I think if we do it in the manner I was guiding us just right before, I think that's more like a vipassana approach, you know, where you, on the one hand, you are realizing about the truth of, you know, the body and the planet being actually not separate. And on the other hand, also the, you know, understanding of not self or emptiness also becomes kind of more tangible, I think, through that meditation. And I think, and at the same time also we learn, you know, to really stay with the object of meditation, to do the scan, you know, to really stay and refining out the 7 factors of awakening, I'd say, you know, while at the same time we learn more than just, you know, we're not only refining the 7 factors of awakening, but we also have like a deeper insight in the non-separation, you know, between planet and body. So I think it's kind of, there's 2 things, you know, there's two insights cultivated at the same time. And yeah, and also it gives me a sense of joy and awe and enrichment also, you know, to really start to allow that to sink in, you know, that yeah, how amazing that is actually, you know. So I find it just a very satisfying kind of way to practice, you know. Yeah.
My teachers would also talk about like envisioning the body being separated, you know, the elements being separated.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you ever do that type of contemplation.
No, I haven't done that myself, no. And I think you, Maureen, did you also want to say something, Maureen? Thank you, Queen.
Thank you. I haven't done this meditation quite like you've done it before. Like I've never done that. But for me, it was the impermanence of our existence.
Mm-hmm.
And they only exist because of that impermanence and that exchange. You know, the oxygen we breathe, the food we take in, the water we drink, it's all circulating round and round, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't exist without impermanence.
Yes. Yes.
And I felt very connected to the earth, to all those elements, just
Yes.
of that continual impermanence. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You know, and that's exactly, I think, why I think it's such an important meditation is because, you know, it brings also like a sense of, you know, tenderness and love, even I would say, you know, or metta. And because we have more like a direct experience how related we are, you know, and a sense of relationship, then it's much easier, you know, to feel a sense of responsibility for how we are actually relating to all of this, you know. And I think that's exactly, you know, the big problem of this time, that there is not a sense of relationship, and therefore there is not a sense of responsibility. And that has just like gone pretty intense meanwhile, you know, and we need to you know, we really need to do what we can to experience that relationship, so that we then live from that place more, you know, rather than just thinking we are here like in a storehouse, you know, where we can just take what we like and throw back what we don't like, because we don't feel like we have anything much to do with this here. We are just here to get what we can, as much as the more the better. And I think this meditation makes it just so clear. It's very different than that, you know. We are not walking around on a stage called Planet Earth. It's very different. And that's what I find so profound and enriching, and so kind of urgent, you know, in this time where we need to come to terms with those limitations. Yeah. Ruvanti.
So I guess so as you were this is the first time I kind of did this sort of meditation. So as you were guiding us through the meditation, the feeling or the attitude that came into my mind was like my you know, we always have this myself highlighted, and it just slowly melted and vanished away into the surrounding or the earth, like when you were just telling this is the earth element, water element, and it's just, you know, myself kind of like, I kind of felt like myself melting into the environment around.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And, you know, and then to kind of remember that, you know, how that felt. Yeah. I think
it was a very relaxing feeling, I think.
Yeah. You know, and like a sense, I would say, you know, like a sense of enrichment, you know, because we can feel we are connected to something so much bigger, you know, than just like me and my life, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, just like you said, it was a relaxing feeling, like, you know, that burden was slowly going away from like it's me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruvanti. Yeah, you know, we can compare, you know, this body with a riding animal or a mounting animal, which we are borrowing from the 5 elements, you know, and then we need to look after it. And when the time comes to give it back, you know, we give it back, and it goes back to the elements. So it's just a very different way of looking at embodiment. And I think, you know, any kind of a practices which can give us like a different outlook, a different facet of being a human being is just very, very good, you know, jolting us out of those very conditioned ways of looking, and not just looking in one way. It gives us just a much broader way of looking at much bigger context, and out of that, you know, comes also like for me, like a sense of inspiration, you know, a sense of you know, wanting to take responsibility, you know, for what is happening here with this, you know, with this culture of ours, with this consumer culture of ours, which has become very destructive, you know, because we are just so many people now. We are almost like going to 8 billion, and we just can't go on that way, you know, it just can't work, because it's a closed system and it cannot work. So it's not just about our personal, you know, liberation, but it's even more than that, you know. It's also about ethics, about sila, and about, you know, being, not taking more than what is our share, really. Truly, or truly, yeah, correct, yeah, truly.
Hi, thank you so much for that. So yeah, so I've been studying a little bit of Lynn Margulis, who actually believed that evolution just couldn't take place on an individual level of one mutation, but had to maybe come about by symbiotic relationship between living beings. And so when I was going through this meditation, it was making me think about that, how there's like this permeability of cells and bodies, and there's like So that's the kind of continuity and the interbeing. I've read a bit of Thich Nhat Hanh's talking about interbeing, and I got that. And then the question that I have is like, so then I think of like my work as my work is kind of there's this moral being, and it has integrity, and maybe a little bit of my Quaker upbringing, like the first emotion is love, right? So you have this center that you come from, and yourself, your moral code, and then you act out of that. Whereas what I was just feeling was kind of like that a little bit of the loss of the self in this larger organism. And I just thought that was really interesting. And then you said that then we're supposed to act from this knowledge, and I'm just wondering, like, where's the self to act if you're dissipated in this larger organism? Kind of maybe you just have your role. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
I think I feel like that these elements which are like somehow getting recycled in this universe over deep time, that there is an innate intelligence to this process, which I trust, because I don't think I have to figure it all out, but because I and the planet, we are made from the same elements, I trust that there is a, what's these days it's called a biointelligence, which I need to align myself. I don't need to invent the wheel, because evolution has already been doing the job brilliantly, much better than I could ever even grasp or understand. But it's more like I need to align myself with that. I need to go into coherence. I need to attune to that. And this meditation practice is for me like a skillful means, how this attunement process can be facilitated, because it, on one hand, you learn to manage your attention and your intention by doing this practice, and then you're refining your mind by practicing in this way, always coming back, not going off into thinking and stories and so on, and coming back to it again and again. So that definitely refines the mind and the 7 factors of awakening. And then at the same time, you are starting to intuitively experience this body in a very different way than usual, and I think that these the bodies and minds of ours, which we have got here now as human beings at this point, that are like very highly refined biocomputers, which have been developed by evolution over billions of years, and there's a lot of intelligence in that, and we just need to trust that process, and at the same time using the teachings in order to also find ways to be less burdened by all of this. So I think that the what we have, our inheritance as human beings living at that time, having those quite refined bodies, and at the same time also having access to a teaching like the Buddha's teaching, which can liberate us from having to be bound to a body. I think they need to go together, because if you are you're wanting to get out of that body as quick as possible and not really respect you know, the planet and what it is, you know, to be born as a human being, I think that won't really work, because that brings a lot of aversion into the process, you know. So I think it needs to be, both needs to be done at the same time, you know. And at this point in history, you know, we have hit the climate crisis. So we need to also take that information in, you know. I don't think it's an option, you know, to turn away from that. At least for me, it isn't, you know, let's say. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, this powerful opportunity, you know, to actually, you know, the whole planet has become a huge mirror for us, you know. And there's even, you know, some suttas which, you know, the sutta of the 7 suns, for example, you know, speaking about that this is you know, it's not unexpected that it is coming to us, but at the same time, you know, it is you know, we do have some agency, you know, to have this to be not such a violent process, you know, which triggers, you know, all kinds of trauma for billions of people, you know, and it can become very hellish, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, to see that we do have some agency, you know, in the midst of all of this. There is some agency there. We don't need to just like try to run away from it, you know, because we can't. You can't just like, we have to do our bit, you know, because we have to take some responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of, you know, like the middle way, really, you know. It can't be fixed. It can't be fixed, but still, you know, as long as we are here trying to contribute, you know, to make it better, that's definitely part of the deal, I think, you know, of being a human being, part of, you know, keeping the precepts, really, you know, it's like the most important basis on which we need to stand, you know. And that means, you know, we can't just turn away from what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's an amazing time to be born, you know, into where we start really to see, because there have been, you know, huge challenges in deep time, you know, many times, you know, and that was always also propelled development, you know. Evolution was often propelled by greatest hardship, greatest challenge. And then, you know, it set free some new capacities and some great creativity, you know, and we are like part of that unfolding, you know. Otherwise there wouldn't be like a Homo sapiens, you know, if there wouldn't have been huge challenges, you know, which basically forged that intelligence, you know, to flourish. And now it's the same, you know, it's such an opportunity which can actually be, you know, just turning up the fire, you know, under the cooking pot. And it's not, we are not just like victims, you know. And I think that's why I feel like this meditation is very timely, you know, because it brings us more into relationship with who we really are. You know, we are not just like separate people, you know, walking around and being completely confused. We are more than this. Yeah, the you know, call it whatever, biointelligence, you know, that these elements they are like operating, you know, in the universe without anybody directing. There's nobody kind of orchestrating all of this. But this is an innate intelligence, you know, which I want to align myself with, and I'd call that Dhamma, really. You know, that's what the Dhamma is for me. And the more I think we are living in coherence with that, you know, the more we can actually hear it speak to us, you know, in the silence, really. Yeah. You know, is understanding ourselves ever more like as part of nature, you know, and the word Dhamma means nature in the end of the day, you know. And knowing, you know, if we align ourselves, then the Dhamma is, you know, the Dhamma upholds those who uphold the Dhamma, you know, the Dhamma will open up, and we will have ever more conducive, you know, circumstances to go further on that path. So it's like a call and response, you know. And, you know, not expecting too much too quick, you know, thinking, oh, I'm going to do that meditation now, and then it's not be that easy either, you know, but at the same time, you know, slowing down in order to speed up, you know, in order to speed up in terms of making a contribution, you know, responding. But we can only respond really skillfully if we know who we are. And this element meditation can help us, you know, to have a better understanding. And then we can much easier, I feel, relate to what reality is telling us, you know. Because it's already telling us like left and right, you know, with everything what's happening, that we need to change. We need to do things differently. It's just not working. It's just not working. And I think that's really, for me at least, I find that also really inspiring, you know, that we consciously, you know, can enter such a phase, because I think in earlier evolutionary times it was not like that, you know. I don't think. When, you know, when beings didn't have those complex bodies and minds, it was all much more unconscious. But now I think that's what is a very special, that quite a certain amount of Homo sapiens are conscious about what is happening, you know. Not all of them, but quite a few. Yeah. And this, how amazing, you know, that this is such an old method, you know, which comes to us from Iron Age India, and it still is completely applicable. And what we do need is, you know, we need like really places where that is more consciously, you know, done, this meditation and spoken about. Yeah. It's like a, you know, Sangha, doing that as a group, doing that as a collective is very powerful, I think. And you know, and through that, being able to relate more to what wants to emerge, I think, you know, as the old ways of being in the world, you know, like consumer capitalism, you know, the more and the bigger is better, as those ways are starting to collapse because they can't be sustained for 8 billion people that can't work, you know, then something else emerges. And if we fine-tune our instrument, then we can relate to it. If we are like completely caught in the old ways, then we are just confused, you know, and fearful. And thinking, oh, you know, it's just like we are victims and it's all bad, you know, but I don't think it's like that. So to, you know, to go more and more into coherence with that which wants to emerge. I mean, that's the only answer, you know, which can work. And then in that sense, you know, for me, that human evolution and liberation needs to go hand in hand, because we can't go back to Iron Age India. We have to go forward, you know. Yeah, so I think, you know, that's what I wanted to share today. And, you know, this Aloka Earth Room, which I try to get off the ground in San Rafael, it's going to be like a dedicated space for that practice in particular, you know. Like a space which is like the whole design of the space is going to support that. You know, that insight and that realization, you know, that we are not separate from Earth. And that's why I call it Earth Room, because I just think, you know, that the symbolic presentation of that aspiration has also a power, you know. And it can make it a little bit easier, maybe, you know, a collective healing space for exactly that way of that recognition. Yeah. And, you know, that the intention, if the intention is really clearly expressed, that does unleash some extra energy, you know, which I hope will be experienced by people who come into that space, by the atmosphere which is going to be there. It's not gonna, you know, happen in one day, but that's what I'm working towards with it. To, you know, to have that, make that invitation to really lean into what wants to emerge. I don't know what it is, but I can offer a container for it to show itself. And, you know, make it see it as a medicine for people, you know, who are confused and don't know what to do. Everybody wants to do something, but don't know how. So that's kind of my kind of aspiration behind the Aloka Earth Room. And the word Aloka means clarity, you know, to help to bring some clarity. And my first teacher, Ajahn Buddhadasa, I felt very inspired by him, and he was a great innovator, you know, of his time, last century in Thailand. And he was using, he was having a building in his monastery which was called the Spiritual Theater, and that was an art gallery, you know, which he used for conveying certain concepts of the teaching. And I felt very inspired by that, because before I was a nun, I was working in art, and so I felt very inspired when I came into his monastery and saw that spiritual theater and thought, wow, I mean, that's such an amazing way, you know, of communicating about the teaching. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna meditate for a few years and then I'm gonna do something like that. But then it turned out it took so much longer because there was so much to learn. And now I feel like I'm just about kind of, by the skin of my teeth, I'm just about ready now to try to do this, you know. So it took so much longer. 1988, I had that aspiration, and now we're having so 34 years or something. So I've really tried to tune my instrument. So, and I think I'm gonna just try to do this and see how it, you know, how the response will be from the Dhamma, really, you know, if it wants to use that space, you know, for having a different way of presenting itself, you know, just like just another facet, you know, because we can't have enough different facets, you know, to shine a light on that which is difficult to see. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to communicate. And you know, and also, as you all know, yeah, when it said that story, you know, that when Siddhartha Gautama was sitting under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya in the night of his enlightenment, you know, when he was challenged to the bone, you know, by so many different spirits and demons and yakshas and whatever, you know, and he's on record that he has been touching the earth, you know, and you know, he's been touching the earth and called her as a witness, you know, that he has been doing his work. And that's, you know, we also need to do our work. Yeah, and then, you know, in that myth or in that story, it said, you know, that the earth goddess, then there was water, you know, coming out of her hair, and she was like wringing out her hair, and all of that water which came out washed away all of the demons and everybody. And in Thailand, I've seen quite a few, you know, monasteries which have like a fountain, you know, where there's the earth goddess sitting, and the water is coming out of her hair, washing away all of the delusion, you know, greed, hatred, and delusion, which came to him in embodiment of those armies of warriors, who were like attacking him. And when the arrows were hitting the Buddha, and then they became flowers. Because he had done his job. He has done everything which needed to be done. So then he was ready, for this breakthrough. So I think that's a very great image, that you also have to do your work. Waking up and growing up, both has to happen. Hey, Richard.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So you mentioned it as a myth, that story of the Buddha's night of his awakening, but I think it comes from a truth, in the sense that Buddha was sitting there and he had his own self-doubt. Am I really qualified to sit here and attain enlightenment? And then he reached out, touched the earth, and he said, the mere fact that I'm sitting here, right here in the earth, is the proof that I have the right to sit here and attain enlightenment. Anyways, that's just an insight I had a number of years ago. But you brought it back to my mind when you were telling that story. Nobody needs to accept what I'm saying. I'm just saying that that was just something that came to me at one point. Anyway, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Richard. Well, I think I want to slowly come to a close, and maybe with a little sharing of blessings at the end, like all the good energy which we have been creating tonight, by coming together and practicing together. I want to share, with all of you, and also with, with our beautiful planet, which is, carrying us and so many other beings since billions of years, and, may we be able to wake up to our, true nature, and also to what we can do in order to, benefit this ecosphere, we are living in, for, so that many more people will be able to have a human life, which is considered the most conducive life for realizing awakening. And thank you also to the Dhammadharini Sangha, for inviting me to come tonight to you. And thank you for Wat Buddhanusorn also to join in.
Thank you, Ayya, for your teaching.
Thank you.
Dhamayam Dhammakataya Sadhakaram Dadamase
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Anumodami.
May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you by the power of all the Buddhas. May you ever be well. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you by the power of all the Dhamma. May you ever be well. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you by the power of all the Sangha. May you ever be well.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Ayya, for joining us tonight.
Thank
And,
you.
Wishing you great success as our near neighbor now down in San Rafael.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you.
halfway between Dhammadharini and Wat Buddhanusorn.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sandwiched. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
I'm utterly grateful for you as always, Ayya Santacitta.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank
I
you.
go deeper. I go deeper.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.